Hi guys, my name's Brianne with Poema Weddings, and today we have with us the lovely Kylie from Sprinkles of Love Events.
Hi, my name is Kylie. As Brianne said, I am the owner of Sprinkles of Love Events. I'm a wedding planner, designer, and coordinator.
So as a coordinator planner, the first question that I think we should start off with is, so say a couple just got engaged.
Okay.
And they're looking to get married maybe about 12 months out from now.
Perfect.
Where should they start?
12 months. First of all, 12 months is a good timeline. Anywhere, I would say like 6 to 12 months is good. Any more, any less, we're going to kind of get into what do we do. If you're less than 6 months, it's like there's too much to do. If you're more than 6 or if you're more than 12 months, the world is your oyster.
Mm-hmm.
If we're starting at 12 months, I like to kind of break it up into quarters. So the first quarter, we'll be planning venue. Pretty much anywhere has venue recommendations. Google is always our best friend, but I would recommend Here Comes the Guide, The Knot, Wedding Wire, Wedding Spot. They all have tons of venues, and most of them have information on the venues too, like price, how to contact them, availability, stuff like that. As soon as you have your venue, I would start to book. Let's say we have a clean slate. I would start to book photographer, videographer, photo booth. Normally catering comes with the venue, so shouldn't have to worry about that. But if it's like a BYOB or bring your own or DIY venue, then I definitely think like tacos. Exactly. We love a good taco truck or an In-N-Out truck.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely start to look into all the vendors that you want. And then after that, once you have all of your vendors secured, we're going to be kind of in a planning lull for a couple of months. I would say the second quarter is you're kind of just gathering wedding ideas and stuff like that.
So Pinterest? Are we talking Pinterest?
Okay. Pinterest, Instagram, TikTok, Reels. Don't take the advice of everyone on these websites, but some of them do offer good advice and some of them are actually worthwhile.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're seeing something on Pinterest and this like a certain photo keeps coming up, or if you love this certain vibe or whatever, definitely keep those and just kind of keep making your boards and all that good stuff.
All the inspiration.
Yep, all the inspiration we can get. Once you bring that to your florist and your planner, if you have one, or your designer or decorator, whoever you're hiring for your wedding, they'll kind of take that and run with it. At least I know I do. If I see something, I'm like, okay, this is good, but obviously we're not going to copy what's in the photo because that's other people's work.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm looking at like, let's say, like we were talking about some trees earlier, like maybe an olive tree, we're going to take like an olive branch with the greenery and the browns and the natural earth colors.
Mm-hmm.
We'll take that and we'll make something beautiful for you, or you can do it yourself or whatever. So
and
that's something.
That's in quarter
2. Yeah. So
okay.
like the second, like I would say, what is that? Like 8 to maybe 9 to 6 months, I would say. Definitely look at inspiration, booking any other vendors that you want, and then getting your invitations out. Normally, if we're doing a wedding that's 12 months in advance, I would say to save the dates out, and then that way all of your guests know that there's a wedding coming, especially if it's like a destination wedding. A lot of people are maybe from like the Midwest or on the East Coast, whatever. They're coming to California if you're having your wedding here. Definitely send those out with the hotel room block on that, because then people can actually book and they're not scrambling last minute to find flights or hotels or whatever it may be. That's just always something that I recommend, because it's kind of odd timing with 12 months where we can send out save the dates, but we're also going to send out an invitation itself a couple months after that.
Mm-hmm.
I normally say mail is kind of taking a longer time right now. So I say what used to be 4 months for an invitation should be 6 months before the wedding day.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting because there's just delays with the mail, and I mean, Amazon's taking over now too. So I'm sure we'll be shipping with them before we know it, but definitely 6 months. That way everyone likes to plan at least somewhat, especially because, like I said, airfare and gas is just so expensive. Take all that into consideration.
Yeah. And
you want all of your guests to come to your wedding. So 6 months in advance is probably a good time to send out those invitations.
Okay. So quarter 1, we start at 12 months, booking the venue.
All your
the first
vendors,
thing. And then you get your date down, essentially.
Date for sure.
And then vendors like photographer, videographer,
florist, DJ, planner if you want one. I would also book, if you don't necessarily want a planner, I would book a coordinator at the very least. A coordinator is going to make sure that your day runs pretty smoothly. Obviously, it's wedding day, so you never know what can happen on wedding day. But if having a coordinator and not just having like your sister coordinate your wedding is definitely worth the investment for sure.
Okay, cool. And then quarter 2, we're looking at inspiration,
sending out those save the dates or invitations if you want to do that. Mostly this is going to be where all of you can pull inspiration from everything, and you can kind of really nail down, now that you've seen the venue, you know your vendor team, you're like, okay, what is my favorite style and what's going to highlight the style of the venue? If it's a Spanish venue, then you're going to want to do some like bright colors and stuff like that. If it's a blank slate, you have a blank slate, you can do anything that you want. But if it's more like outdoorsy, then maybe you'll want to incorporate plants and different leaves and stuff like that. Definitely pulling inspiration from anywhere you can look, for sure. Okay. And then the quarter after that, we're starting to get more back into planning things. We'll do sending out those, like really getting that hard invitation out, sending out those save the dates or invitations. This is when we really start to plan. We'll do renderings, a mock-up of a table design. We'll start to purchase candles, candle holders, anything that you need in terms of decoration, photo frames. We'll make the trip to IKEA, all that good stuff. We love IKEA for weddings. And then, so that's when we kind of start to accumulate everything. You don't want to have it sit in your garage or your living room
for 6
too
months.
long. Yeah, exactly. No one wants that. Just collecting dust. But we definitely will start to do this then. And then, like I said, we'll make a mock-up, and it will basically be like on a digital version of what your wedding will look like, which is really cool. Yeah. And plus it helps people too. A lot of people aren't visual learners. Like I've learned that because I can see a space and I can visualize something like immediately. But I've learned through being a planner that no one can really do that. Like I can, which is, it's cool to be able to share that with people.
And that's why you do what you do.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And to just kind of show them like, hey, like this will work. This is what we can do with the space. Or like, hey, like these like purple and yellow don't really go together. Like maybe we should do something different. You know what I mean? As an example. Not hating on purple and yellow.
I mean, I don't really like purple and yellow together,
right.
Personal preference.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, cool. So then, what else do we have left in quarter 2? Or this would be quarter 3.
Quarter 2, yeah, quarter 3. Like I said, just kind of keeping your eye out. Facebook Marketplace, there are tons of people, believe it or not, who sell all their old like chargers, candles, stuff like that.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Isn't it crazy? There's like
a
million
full
things on there.
Wedding, all of the decor.
Yep. Yeah,
you can find
on Facebook Marketplace.
Yeah,
exactly. I always recommend looking there. You're always going to find something for a steal, which is, I love that. You're always looking for a deal. And then, so that's kind of good in terms of the third quarter. And then the fourth quarter is where if you have a
final
coordinator,
stretch.
Exactly, where you're really feeling the stress of wedding day. Not that if you have a coordinator or planner, you're not going to feel it too much because we'll be taking on most of that, but we still need you to make the timeline, the seating chart, all that good stuff. So about 2 to 3 months out, we'll start with a timeline. We'll meet, we'll make that timeline up. I like to present myself as a different type of planner. I'm not a cookie cutter planner. I don't tell people when they're supposed to do certain things. I just don't believe in that. I do, however, come with a blank slate. I have my little iPad. I take it everywhere. I write everything down. I'll come with my blank iPad, and we start from what time do you want to wake up to what time do you want to go home. I would say minute by minute, at least every 5 minutes, there's something on the timeline because wedding day is just crazy.
That's kind of how it goes.
Yeah, always. Yep. And a lot of people, I like to have it all written out because ultimately my timeline is what's king on wedding day. I mean, everyone's going to go by that. So I really want to make sure I try to make everyone else's job as easy as possible. For you want to know exactly what's going on, when it's going on. And I want to, as a planner of the wedding that we're going to be working on together, I want to be able to make your job easy and you know exactly what's going on and really where you can find me too.
Yeah.
I mean, I have my assistants running around, but if you know that if you're looking at the timeline and you're doing like after ceremony photos with family, I'm most likely at reception doing the finalizing touches, lighting the candles, all that good stuff. I'm everywhere on wedding day.
Yeah, you are. Well, I mean, you're coordinating the whole thing. So you're trying to make sure you're putting out all of the fires.
Yep.
You're doing, all of the small tasks to make sure that everything is perfect before the guests walk into the reception.
Exactly.
And you've got all hands on deck for the full day.
For sure. And then I would say another part of that fourth quarter is making the seating chart, which is honestly one of the worst parts of wedding planning, making a seating chart. Oh yeah, it is the most difficult
for couples. For typically?
Couples, yeah. Because I would love to help I would love to help make the seating chart. I don't know who your friends are. Yeah. I don't know who your family is. I don't know who gets along. I don't know who doesn't vibe. Mm-hmm. So I can help as much as possible. I can provide you with a layout and the table numbers. And I have this new thing where I give all of my couples slots per table. So if there's 10 to a table, I'll say table 1, and then I'll put the slots and they can write it in or fill it in or whatever they want to do with it. I'm a pen and paper girl. I write everything out. Yeah. And it's helpful. I just sent it to her bride yesterday, actually, and she's like, I couldn't do this without like this piece of paper. It's literally lines.
And just fill in the blank.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's so hard because a lot of the times people are working, they're, feeling the stresses of wedding day. You don't think to do something to like help yourself, kind of. That's what I'm here for. I'm here to provide all the templates that you need. Seating chart, getting all of your wedding stuff together, and you should be able to hand it off to your coordinator or planner. So at like rehearsal, for example, when we're doing the rehearsal, I'm also there not only coordinating the rehearsal and making sure that everything is running smooth, but I'm also there to pack up my car. So when I'm there on wedding day, normally a planner is one of the first vendors to arrive and one of the last to leave. Yeah. When I'm there, like I said, I'm one of the first to arrive. So I want to make sure that I have all of your decorations, all of your DIY, everything that you have available for me and my team to use and anyone else who needs it. So we can kind of set it up, flat lay photos, all that good stuff, all the details that are needed.
So that way you don't have the bride running around on her wedding day trying to do it all herself.
Exactly.
Because I think it's so easy for everyone to get caught in that trap of like, oh, I could just do that myself.
Yeah.
And then they don't really think about the logistics of like, well, wait, you'll have to be getting ready and hair
and makeup needs to be done.
And then there's, pictures and family photos and things like that. So, okay, cool.
Yeah.
And then they get married.
And then wedding day. And then all of a sudden you weren't married yesterday. Now you're married within the last 5 minutes. And yeah, it's really cool to see. Like just wedding day jitters it's kind of like special to see because you're like, you've been with your partner for so long and you're seeing them like so nervous to like either have the first look or first touch or whatever like that first moment is, whether it's walking down the aisle traditionally or having that first look. It's just so special to be able to see. And then also if you have a planner, I am really just like making friends with these people. Like I am ultimately their wedding best friend for the whole time we're planning and then into wedding day. So it's like, it's cool to be able to not only make new relationships, but to see like, just like the love that's there. You know what I mean? Really spending that like intentional time with your partner and wanting to be intentional with your guests and all that good stuff.
I think that's one of the most beautiful things about having a coordinator or a planner. You said, being with your guests and like enjoying them. You can actually enjoy them as opposed like, so for example, on me and Joe's wedding day, we tried to do the whole thing ourselves essentially. And we were basically just working the whole day.
Which sucks. You don't want to do that at all. You want to be able to sit down with your guests and have a meal. And you know what I mean? Like you just want to at least be able to say hi and to enjoy it. Exactly. Yeah.
And I will say that we did have a day of coordinator at the venue or a venue coordinator. And she did help run things smoothly, like tell people when to walk down the aisle and all of those things, which actually was another question that I was going to ask you. What is the difference between a day of coordinator, a wedding planner, and a venue coordinator? Because they're all different.
They are all different. And that's honestly one of the most asked questions that I get. So we'll go in order. A day of coordinator is someone who typically steps in about 60 days before you actually get married. You'll meet with them. You'll tell them your design, like, hey, this is what we've got. This is what it's going to look like. And this is who's involved.
And
Great.
they've basically done everything. The couple does everything themselves for the most part.
Yep, exactly.
On the designing end.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So designing and just kind of getting all the vendors on board, that's 100% on them. If you're booking with me, whatever stage, whatever like month you're at before you start planning, I will send you monthly to-do lists just to kind of make sure you know what to be doing. There's a couple things on there that I've gotten some feedback and it's like, oh, I wouldn't even thought to do that. Like getting a wedding band, for example, like who, like you have an engagement ring, but like, what are you supposed to do with, like, I didn't even know that you needed a wedding band. Some people say that, you know what I mean? So it's little things like that are helpful if you do have a coordinator. I always recommend to book someone in advance because prices go up, you know, people change their packages, stuff like that. So if you lock someone's price in a year ago, it's probably going to change by the time you get to your wedding.
So even if you don't need them until, what did you say, the day of coordinator?
60 days before.
60 days before. So even if you don't need them until that 60 days before, it's better to book them way out in advance. And also because of your availability, right?
Availability too. Yeah. Once we're getting into like that 6 months mark, once we're getting into that 6 month mark, there's probably no availability left over. Unfortunately, that's just how the cookie crumbles. I always feel so bad when people are like, oh my gosh, are you available? I'm like, oh, your wedding sounds so cool, but no, I'm not, unfortunately. But it's really cool to be able to see just, I actually booked your normal day of a year and a half in advance.
Oh, wow.
So I mean, it pays off to book your vendors in advance because like I'm going through a price change right now. And, you know, people that booked me a week ago and people that are going to book me next week, they're getting different prices just because of that change. So,
yeah.
So
that's a day of.
That's a day of. A wedding planner is with you from the start, or they can be with you from the time that you book your venue and have a date.
Okay.
So there's full planning, which is the whole 9 yards. You're going on venue tours. You're meeting with all the vendors. Any planner that you have or coordinator will have a list of vendors, like preferred vendors that they choose to work with. The people that are on my preferred vendors list, I've worked with them before. They do amazing work. I wouldn't recommend someone that doesn't. And I just know that we work well together as a team too. And I mean, I want people to be on my team for sure. And it's also kind of a representation of me and who I am because, you know, you guys are on my preferred vendors list. So, you know, you're bringing to the table kind of what I think that I bring to the table. And it's more of an elevated experience for sure on everyone's end. Your end, you're getting these amazing clients. On their end, you're getting amazing videographer, photographer, florist, anyone else. So it kind of works hand in hand, which is really helpful. But with the full planning, you're going, like I said, you're going to be doing those venue tours, doing the design process. Like you basically with a planner, you will come to me with a couple of photos and you're like, I think I want like yellow. And I'm like, perfect, we'll make it happen. I'm like, do you want like sunshine yellow or do you want like lemon yellow? You're like, wait, I don't know. And then that's where I come in and I make up these renderings and mock-ups. And here's like, okay, well, here's something that we can do like a sunshiny type vibe, or we can do like you're in Amalfi Coast and you're, you know, sipping on limoncello. You know what I mean? So there's two completely different vibes. Fancy. I know, right? There's two completely different vibes just based off what you said. And some of these couples that come to me, they're like, I didn't even know that was possible. I'm like, no, I know. This is why we're here. Like, this is why I'm here to help you. And then if you have a partial planner, it's pretty much the same thing. At least my packages are for partial planning. The only thing that you're not getting is those venue tours and helping you select the venue. So I'm not kind of like being there with you, giving my 2 cents on, oh, I really liked the venue, or this venue doesn't really seem like your guys' vibe, just based on what you guys told me. And then a venue coordinator is something completely different. And a lot of the times people are confused on why a venue needs a day of coordinator because they already have a venue coordinator. But a venue coordinator is going to make sure their team is good to go, their catering staff, their venue staff even. They're putting away the chairs, serving the plates, the bartenders, stuff like that. I'm really there as your day of coordinator to help you guys out. Say you're the bride. I'm there to bustle your dress if you have no one. I'm there to pack your belongings at the end of the night. I'm there to set out all of your DIY items, all of your personal items. The biggest thing is a cake cutting set and a champagne glass. Who's going to remember to put that back away at the end of the night or even set it out in the first place? That's where I would come in. I would make sure that that's all done and ready to go. And then another big thing is when you're having your ceremony, the processional, the recessional, who walks, what time do you walk, who lets me walk. I always make sure that I'm there, and I give very explicit direction on what you're supposed to do. You know, I always tell brides, keep your bouquet at your belly button, all that good stuff. Guys, nothing in your pockets. I normally take that stuff because if you don't have someone, if you don't have someone there to remind you of those things, it can be kind of hard to remember all that because wedding day is there's so much going on.
Yeah. Yeah. So you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the venue coordinator, you are a day of coordinator. You're not a venue coordinator.
I am not.
The venue coordinator works specifically with that venue. They work at that venue. That's their job.
Yep.
And they're the ones that are handling all the staff at the venue.
Exactly. Like the behind
venue.
the scenes for the venue itself. Because really the venue needs to be a well turning oil for my team to be a well turning oil. And you're on my team. Florist is on my team. You know what I mean? So we are there to make sure that if the venue coordinator, if they do their job, we can't do our job without them. So as long as they're all good, like I kind of know that when I show up on wedding day to a venue, I'm like, okay, perfect. There's a venue coordinator here. I know that I won't have to do that job as well. You know what I mean? Which is like that. I think that's 100% of the time the case always. But you always get those DIY wedding venues that are like, oh, I have to do everything perfect.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. Do you in your job ever overlap depending on?
Yeah. There are some, I normally don't do these too often because it just puts a lot of stress on my team that I don't want to put them through. A lot of the times, if we're at a DIY venue, it will be, I need to make sure the caterer is cooking food so then I can start grand entrances. I need to make sure that the rooms are clear before, like I have to get there an hour early, make sure the rooms are clear, make sure everything's in order. So I have to, so I can do my job effectively, so I can let the bride in and stuff like that. A lot of the times the venue staff and venue coordinator will have their staff set up the chairs and tables. I don't have the team for that. I have my assistants, but we're not big, strong, you know?
Yeah.
We decorate, we do all those good things, but we're not, you know, moving tables around, moving chairs, all that good stuff. So they will be there to kind of set it all up for us. And then we come in and transform the space and make it beautiful.
Okay.
Sometimes I am doing both jobs, and that's when
that's hard.
It's difficult.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose it would be really helpful if you have, like, for example, the table and the chairs, if the rental company that they've brought in from outside, since it's a DIY type of a venue, like say it's a backyard wedding or they're doing it at a park, you know, the rental company will probably come in, bring those tables and chairs, maybe set them up.
I would hope. I always ask for that just so my team is like, we're good to go.
Yeah.
But sometimes there's always a little bit of miscommunication there.
Oh, so they don't always do that.
They don't always do that.
Okay.
Sometimes they'll just leave them in a corner and I'm like, I'm looking at
On
like
a
13.
cart.
Yeah, exactly. I'm looking at like 13 tables. I'm like, how are we going to do this?
Oh, yeah. How am I going to do all of these things?
Exactly.
Okay.
I mean, obviously we're pretty much down for anything, but like I said, if the venue is a well spinning oil, so are we. We're able to do our job effectively because this is running so well.
Okay. What would you recommend to most couples? Would you recommend that they have the planner? Would you recommend that they have just a day of coordinator? Or how about I frame this in a better way? Which kind of couple would you recommend what type of planner or coordinator to?
If someone is going to be very organized, very involved, I mean, planning a wedding is basically a full-time job because when you're planning, you're just always doing something. There's always something that needs to be done in terms of wedding stuff. So I would say if you are able to spend the time and really take into consideration and kind of price match everything and just kind of make sure everything is going to be a well-turning oil, then you are able to just do that and have a day of coordinator.
Okay.
If you can't guarantee that your machine is going to be well-oiled, then I would do at least a partial planner. Like I said, you don't really need a full planner if you already have your date and your vendor and your venue. Then a partial planner would step in and then be like, hey, here's a list of all of my all my vendors that I like to work with and all that good stuff. Present those to you. I always give my couples the option of I can reach out on your behalf or you can just reach out from there. It's entirely up to you. I want to make my couples feel like they're being taken care of and they're essentially as involved as possible. I don't ever want to be like, oh, like I didn't really get to plan my wedding. You know what I mean? I want to be there to bounce ideas off of and stuff like that. But I would say if you know that you just can't swing planning a wedding, at least get a partial planner after you've done the legwork of touring the venues, meeting with the venues and all that good stuff. All you really need is a venue and a date and you're good with partial planning.
Okay.
If you have no idea where to start and you're like, I don't even know what venues are out there. I don't really have time to look. I don't want to look because it gets overwhelming for sure. That's when a full planner comes in. And then like for me, for example, I present my couples with a list of 10 venues and they're all based on what they said in the consultation, what they're looking for. If they're looking for greenery outside, a vineyard, blank slate, something modern, they're all based off of what they've said. That way I've narrowed down all the outside influence and I'm kind of like honing in on what you guys want and what would fit in your budget and what would fit for your style and all that good stuff. It just helps a lot, especially if you're easily overwhelmed or easily just kind of like distracted even. There's venues that pop up when I'm even looking at venues because I'm always on these websites that I mentioned earlier, just looking for different venues and what's new and what shut down. It's very interesting to see how easily distracted I can get, and I'm the planner. You know what I mean? So I do this for a living. So I can only imagine if you have kids at home, if you have your job calling you 24/7, like it's hard to be able to do it. And like I said, it turns into a full-time job very quickly.
Yeah.
And some people just don't have that capability. Or the capability to be organized, or even, like I said, if you don't know where to begin, I would definitely go with a full planner. If you have your venue and you kind of know what direction you want to go, I would go with a partial planner.
Okay.
And then if you're like, nope, I got this, like we are 100% good, I would go with the day of coordinator.
Just to keep things running smoothly.
Like I said, you definitely want it to be a well-oiled machine because there's just... I would say you have to, you know what I mean? A lot of venues actually require you to have one. And then even if they don't, just for your own sanity, like just to make sure you're just to make sure you're good. Like, just like I said, it's a little bit of investment, but it's so worth it.
Yeah. We've had couples who we've talked to and they decided not to do a day of coordinator. I believe they had one, for the venue.
Okay.
The venue had its own coordinator,
Not
but
the
they
same.
didn't have a day of coordinator.
Yeah.
So what happened was on their wedding day, they have, their bridesmaids, their family asking them, where do you want this? Where do you want this? Where do you want this? And they're having to answer all of these questions on the day of their wedding when they should just be like hanging out, getting ready and just enjoying the time, not stressing about where the candles go. And
how many candles to a table. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think, of course, there are couples that can definitely do those types of things. Like if they already know, if they're very organized and they have that mock-up, they're like, this is what my table needs to look like. Here's the stuff. I'm going to delegate this task to mom, know? And then
but
mom
even
goes
then,
and does
you
those
don't
things.
want mom working on your wedding day.
Of course,
mom should be, you know what I mean? Like mom should be in the photos because a lot of people do say that. They're like, oh, you know what? We're going to skip. I'm so sorry. They're going to they say we're going to skip having a planner or a coordinator. Mom's going to do it. Uncle's going to do it. Cousin's going to do it. You want them in your photos. You want them to be enjoying the experience with you. I don't think if they're invited to your wedding, you hate them. You know what I mean? It's not like you're putting someone you hate to the job. So if there's someone that you can hire that can be on your team, like 100% your team will do pretty much whatever you want, I would do it for sure.
That's a very good point. It's like, it's the same thing with the photo and video side of things too. It's like
I'm sure you hear it all the time too.
Like, I'm just gonna get my uncle to do the video.
My uncle has a camera.
Yeah, my uncle has a camera. And one of the things that we always discuss with them is like the same thing. It's like you want them to enjoy their wedding day.
Yep.
You want them to enjoy your wedding day. You want them to be present and be a part of it. You don't want them to be, working the whole time.
Exactly.
Unless, of course, they want to. And I suppose you could do that. But
I don't know if anyone wants to be working their like relatives' family day
Yeah,
or wedding day.
Well, maybe they're just really like antsy and they have to do something. They're like, I can't sit still all day long.
Especially with social media and stuff, everyone's on their phones anyway. So it's kind of a time where you can kind of put all that away and you're like, okay, we're going to spend some intentional time together. Let's watch you guys get married. You know what I mean?
That's a great point.
Yeah. It's definitely, it's kind of like a mini vacation that you can attend for free. You can eat and drink for free.
Yes. That is very fun. Okay, so going off of, so we just went over the differences between the day of coordinator, planner, and then a partial planner. What are the average going rates for each of those? And then what do you charge?
I would say a day of coordinator is anywhere between $2,500 to $3,500. Partial planning is anywhere between $4,000 to $6,000, and full planning is anywhere between $6,000 to, I've seen upwards of like $15,000. It really depends on the type of wedding and all that good stuff, guest count.
And this is all in Southern California.
Southern California, yes.
Just for everybody's
I
reference.
would say California as a whole.
Okay.
The prices across the board are pretty much the same. Obviously, I can't attest to other states, but California is definitely a little bit pricey.
Yeah, it is. It's a little bit pricier. And my last question for you, do you have any final tips or tricks for couples planning their wedding?
Yes. Don't start actually designing your wedding until about 6 months in advance. Because if you're a year out or a year and a half, you're like, oh, I love this. Kind of like how we were talking about the Italy design or the sunshine design. You, a year ago, you could be like, oh, I love the sunshine vibe. 6 months before, you're going to see someone else had a wedding and you're like, oh, wait, I want to do that instead. And it's something completely different, like a French blue. And it wasn't even a question in the beginning. It was like, oh, no, I don't want blue in my wedding at all. And now all of a sudden we're here. Take your time with designing it and really plan out exactly what you like, because your wedding lasts forever. You shouldn't be having more than one wedding. It's all jokes aside, it's really, you want it to be timeless and special to you guys, you and your partner. It's just the best way to do it 6 months in advance. That way you know what the venue looks like, who all the vendors are. That way you can kind of incorporate everyone's style into the wedding, and it'll just be like, it'll be a 100% every time. It'll look perfect. No matter if you look back at it in 5 years, in a year, 6 months, 15 years down the line, 30 years down the line, when you're having kids and your kids want to show like, oh, this is what grandma and grandpa's wedding looked like. You want it to hit every time.
That is a really good tip, actually. And I think the best part about that 6 month thing is because you have your vendors already. So you, like you said, you know the venue. And even on the photography side of things, I've had couples ask me, you know, with your style and how you edit, what are colors that I maybe shouldn't lean into? And
it's really nice. I love that people ask you that.
Yeah. Well, it was only one, but someone did ask me. And I think that was really awesome, because what I could tell her is like, well, I mean, my style leans heavily into very neutral tones and maybe like a little more goldeny too. So I think red usually clashes a little bit more with that. And so the bride then could, you know, she's going to have those pictures forever.
Exactly.
So if she gets them back and she kind of notices the stylistic change a little bit, like now she knows.
Exactly.
And
exactly.
She
and
can figure it out.
You said that they're going to have these pictures forever. And I could not agree more. I mean, they're going to be hung up their house. They're going to be screensavers. All of the guests are going to want to see them. You want them. I mean, and that kind of goes along with the design too. It's like when you, even down to what color shoes the groomsmen are wearing, like you want to be able to like have it perfect and just really just be yours. You know what I mean? Having a new thing that I see a lot is having either like a bar menu and their dogs' names, like after, like they're naming drinks after the dog.
I saw that at a recent wedding.
So cute. I love that. I love it. It's a trend right now, but I don't think it'll go out of style because it's something personalized to the wedding and personalized to the couple. And then another thing that I've done a couple times this year alone is napkins with their dog printed on the napkin and like the name, and it's like thanks for coming or whatever. So it's like little things that don't have to be a favor or like a huge, kind of in lieu of a speech or something big that you want to thank your guests with. It's going to be something that's special and accustomed to you guys. You know what I mean? So I would say any last tips or tricks would be wait until the final design happens, really until you know exactly what this is. And even some rental companies, if you are doing any rentals, they will have your I think you have up until like 2 months or even 2 weeks to finalize all orders. So it's not like you have to secure everything super quick. That's more in terms of vendors and stuff like that. Like vendors is where you're going to have to book very far in advance. But in terms of rentals are pretty much always going to be there. Unless you're like in peak, like June or May, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Then you should do like a couple months in advance. But even then, you still have time. I would definitely wait until you finalize your design to really make sure that you're going to like it in the next 10 years. And then to incorporate any personalized items, whether that be a little thank you note or your dog on a napkin, whatever it may be.
Yeah, I think adding personal touches,
it's so much better.
nice.
It's so much better. Honestly, it could turn something that's super plain and basic. Not that weddings are, but you just, especially at the bar, because normally when you're at a venue, it's like their house bar and it's like a piece of wood. You know what I mean? It's like not the cutest thing in the world.
A piece of wood.
But it's cool to be able to personalize something that you really can't otherwise with something like a specialized napkin or a monogram or what are the lights called? Like an LED, a neon sign. So if you're able to personalize stuff through like a napkin or a neon sign or something like that, it makes all the difference in the world.
Thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any questions for me or for Kylie, you can leave them in the comment section below.
And if you want to follow along with any of the weddings that I do, my Instagram is Sprinkles of Love Events, and my website is sprinklesofloveevents.com. And then, as always, make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. And then make sure you hit that notification bell for all the good tips and tricks that we have coming up for you.
Thanks for watching.
Bye.